well, but let's start with Arsenal. Where else?
That's
Where
why
else?
they
Let's be
positioned me
honest.
next to you.
And you know, because Laurie,
Because I was going to sit there.
Yeah.
They said no.
I noticed when I walked in. When I walked in, I thought, hold on a minute. No.
I wanted to sit as far away from you
him
as possible.
next to me.
And they've relocated me. But
Yes.
hey, man, I've got big shoulders. I can take it, bro.
Exactly, and because a lot of the times this season, when we've been on streams, you've been a man, you've come out full force speaking.
Yeah,
with
I've
your
been
chest,
sticking my chest out.
it's
saying
only
things
right
with
now
confidence.
we answer some honest questions and have some honest conversations. But this season for Arsenal, do you personally feel like you've bottled it, or has it been a good season?
I'll ask the second part of that question first. Yes, it has been a good season because I was one of those. I didn't see this coming. Us top in the league. As we sit right now, we're still top in the league by a couple of points. Listen, at the start of the season, I did not see this. My aspirations as an Arsenal fan was for us to get in the top 4, which we missed out on last year, and get into the Champions League. Right. In answer to your first question, did we bottle it? Up until the City game, I would have said no. However, I've got to be honest and say there were elements of that game on Wednesday that I was disappointed with. Namely, when we conceded that goal after 6 minutes.
Yeah.
I think you could see any little confidence that we had going into the game, which, let's face it, was fairly fragile after the Liverpool, West Ham and Southampton games.
Yeah.
Just seemed to just evaporate. And I wouldn't go as far as to say they totally spewed it, meaning they didn't try. But the lack of confidence was palpable. So much so that I didn't see us getting back in the game.
Where do you think that stems from, though? Because it seems like it wasn't just that result. It's almost like a hangover over the last couple of weeks. Do you feel like the nerves have kind of got to the players? Or
I said
the moment has just overawed them? Because I think there were points where they were saying in Christmas, no team has ever not won the league
50
from this
points
point.
halfway.
Yeah, and I think for majority, 80% of the season, you could say Arsenal were top.
They still
the
are
most comfortable team, being there as well, playing their best football, having arguably some of the best players this season.
Absolutely. Listen,
But then
I'm going to
come
keep it
crunch
100.
time, similar thing last year as well, I recall, in kind of the top 4.
No, it was different to last year's.
What makes it different for you this year? And if there were kind of like a few key things as to why you feel like this has happened over the last couple, what do you think they are?
Right, yeah, so that's what I was going to say. So, you're right, up until Christmas, everybody was saying, if you're on top of Christmas, you win the league, and the amount of points we'd amassed and blah, blah, blah. I was one of those. I was confident, genuinely confident that we could win it. But I think what we've seen is there's been a couple of factors recently that have contributed to our apparent demise, because I personally don't think it's all over yet. But anyway, the injury to Saliba and Tomiyasu for me has been crucial. That's been coupled with some indifferent form. And then with indifferent form comes the confidence draining out of the players.
Yeah.
And subsequently we find ourselves
do you think
in that position.
I look at games like was it the first one of the draws where you went
Liverpool.
to a back
Liverpool,
5
yeah.
And then Kivior was getting subbed on.
That was
and
weird.
Then I remember Jesus was arguably your best attacker in that game, with Saka being your worst, but he took off Jesus in that kind of moment. And it was those kind of weird moments where I started to look at Arteta a little bit and be like, in the crunch time, I think you've made 1 or 2 decisions where you're definitely at fault. I think there's definitely, the funny thing is, it's not just one thing, because I look at the individual players as well, and I look at guys like Saka, maybe in those couple of games didn't raise his level. Odegaard hadn't stepped up to those levels. Gabriel making a few mistakes that have been unexpected. Jesus missing a few big chances. All guys who have throughout the season
do you know what it is?
stepped up.
I feel like those 3 games have their reasons. I think Liverpool was probably... Look, the thing with Pep at the moment is Pep is still learning. Every year in the Premier League, Pep is getting better because he's getting more used to it. He's noticing things. For example, grounds. You have to respect grounds, away games. Yeah. You have to respect Anfield, right? You have to. We've learned that the hard way. And when you're playing against a Liverpool team that kind of have nothing to play for at the moment, don't give that crowd something to get behind their team. So even if that's a fight on the pitch, the level will go up a notch. We saw it this season, to be honest. Pep did it.
Exactly
Pep got up because I think we had a decision go against us. Went like that to the crowd. That was it. Anfield's off. Not a good idea. West Ham game.
So you're referring to the Xhaka moment with him and Trent?
Yeah. You just have to stay down, man. Stay down. And then the West Ham was next, wasn't it? The West Ham game for me, you started off well, back to the same Arsenal. What I think by that point is some of your players were starting to look, and your fans were starting to look at Manchester City as in eyes on that game. Because I kept asking Arsenal fans, how are you going to win the league? And they're going, at the Etihad. And I kept saying, no.
You can't.
Past that, you've got a 5-point lead, 3 points off, forget that. Part that up, yeah? And that second half against West Ham, like I said, you lot thought that was about you lot getting 3 points, but to 50,000 West Ham fans, that was about them not getting a point.
You know what? You did make a valid point there, because I remember
that second half they were so loud because you were playing against a team that were fighting relegation.
Listen, I was having arguments with Arsenal fans in AFTV setup because they kind of had that similar attitude about West Ham, and I was saying, listen, man, West Ham away from home, it's a London derby. On their day, they have some very good players. And they can rise to the occasion. I mean, Declan Rice, to name but one. And I said, that is not going to be an easy game. It's Sunday afternoon at this stadium, 60,000 fans, whatever.
Expecting to bounce back from the week before as well.
Exactly, and they've done well in the Conference League leading up to that.
For me.
The only other thing I was going to say that came in, so those 3 games kind of were a build-up, but I was very vocal before we played you in the FA Cup, right?
You're always vocal, mate.
I'm always vocal, I am. But before the FA Cup game, I was very, not just to you, but to you and City.
Do you feel like that FA Cup game was a turning point in the sense of, up until that point, I felt like maybe you could say Arsenal were looking invincible at that point. The Anfield away test they passed, North London derby they'd come through. Every single kind of small result that they would have dropped against previous smaller teams, they were snow plowing.
Do you know what it was?
But then they got to the FA Cup game and it was like, no, do you know what? We're going to rotate 1 or 2 guys. And City went, no, this is our opportunity to really see if we can get at them. And once that kind of gave them the mental 1-0 up, now the Emirates games come and it's a whole different, like,
that was the key.
And are they still competitors or are we
our
better
form didn't turn after the FA Cup game. We still had bad results. We still had Tottenham after that. But the thing is, and I've kept saying this, that the reason why that game was important is, firstly, both of us had 7 days till our next game after it. There was no reason for either of us to rest anyone. At that point, Man City were not looking good. And I said, you're going into that game, you'd lost 12 of the last 13 against us. You'd overcome every hurdle this season. I said, look, this is a mental thing. Before we play you in either of the 2 league games, get that mental thing in your head that you can beat City now. And when you didn't, it was like, oh, you don't know how this is going to come back. So then we beat you at the Emirates. And I think then park all of that up, that through this recent run of you having 3 draws, you're then like, right, now's our big test, the one that we think we're going to win the league here. And then, hold on a second, this is a team that have beat us twice this season, have beat us the last 13 or 14 times, are in the best form they've been in since I don't know when, Man City at the moment. And all of a sudden, I think mentally to your young squad, it was just too much. Because they came there and, I'm not going to lie, I've been saying in the build-up to it, I'm not worried about this game. But it was like I am with the derby, that I always say I'm not worried about United. But in the morning when I wake up, I'm like, And it was the same with Arsenal. I was thinking, do you know what? Because if Arsenal come in and get a result, I'm literally hanging every bit of hope on Newcastle, and that's it. Now, there's no other hope. So... And then the minute the game kicked off, your whole team just looked like they didn't know.
My own view on Arsenal is, I just think, pure and simple, it's a lack of experience. That team's not had a title fight before. I don't think any of the players have. I mean, you signed Gabriel from mid-table in the French league or top half of the French league. Mistakes, of course, were made, but I think it's not mistakes that you look at and you think it cost us, but more, we haven't got the experience of a fight before. You haven't got the mental experience, the kind of mental scars of going through and knowing what you've got to do. And I think that counts for perhaps more than a lot of saying. And I think it almost showed from Arsenal fans. Arsenal fans, I couldn't name a single Arsenal fan that said, I think we're going to do this.
Oh, you could, Robbie.
It was, okay, Robbie.
No, I thought we were going to do it.
But my point would be that...
The Lyle brothers.
I just think, but it's a lack of experience, and I don't think that's anything to be ashamed of.
No,
I think what Arsenal have got to think is, we've had this experience this year, we have to come back next season as strong, because Liverpool had that kind of season where they came runners-up, 13-14. People thought, let's kick on, but they couldn't. But then,
and 18-19.
And 18-19. But the great
what I'm
teams-
worried about now is that it could go one of two ways now. It could go the way that we finish the season well, because that's important, regardless of whether we win the title or not. We've got 5 games left. We've got to try and win all 5.
Agreed.
And then hopefully that will take us into next season with a degree of optimism that we can repeat what we've done this season. What I'm worried about is if things tail off, you get that palpable sense of disappointment, and then that carries over into next season. People might look at it, it was a bit fluky, it's because Chelsea dropped off, Liverpool went at it, Man United are still coming to their transitional. Spurs.
And that's the thing, do you think looking at, if you just kind of did have to look ahead to next season, do you think you can compete again?
Yeah, absolutely, because I think if we strengthen in the summer, which it looks like we're gonna,
because you've got Champions League football now as well.
Exactly.
As a kind of pool.
Yeah, so
It's a lack of depth. That's the thing.
But
I do think that we've missed a golden opportunity, because I was one of those, right? And I'm going to keep it 100. I thought we could have won the title without beating City. If you remember, you go back a few weeks. We was in the ascendancy, man. We had the points on the board. And I was saying to man, like, that City game. I said, listen, bro, if we take care of business against the likes of your Liverpool, West Ham and Southampton, you don't need to go to City and win. The pressure will be on them.
People forget that, like, 13-14, Chelsea...
That was the last time you were in it. Was that the last time you... No, actually, you won it
Chelsea,
since
this
then,
was Chelsea's, like, building experience season. We beat City home and away. We beat Liverpool home and away. Both finished above us because they were more consistent. And the thing with Arsenal is I feel that if they come back next season, win their first 5, all this experience of... coming but falling just short will be so crucial.
Exactly.
It's
not just for the team, but for the manager.
It's also
done really well.
We have to be real with Arsenal, right? Is that they are building a squad, right? And they've been building this squad without Champions League football. So he's been and we had this conversation, me, you and Robbie, a couple of weeks ago, and I said I don't understand. I think it's Man United fans are trying to come up with this narrative that Arsenal won't be busy in the transfer market, but Arsenal has spent money over the last few years. It's just they haven't had Champions League football, so maybe people think, they haven't been bringing in superstars. But actually, Arteta's been bringing in players that are the right fit for what he wants, right? Working with the fact that, because previously you'd go and get Aubameyang. Well, what good was that for you, right?
Yeah.
He's got the right.
You're talking to a paid-up member of the Aubameyang fan club.
But now,
not as bad as him for us.
But now. If you look, he's got players that have worked for him, and even with Trossard, look, if you look at left wing now, you've got 2 rotatable players, both as good as each other. Someone, I think it was Dan Potts, said to me the other day, if in the summer you get Declan Rice, DM, you get, I think you need another centre back and a good centre back. It's like replace Rob Holding with a proper centre back and get a goal scorer.
The spine.
Just speaking of goal scorers, would you take Aubameyang back on an emergency? Possibly?
No, that ship's sailed now. That ship's sailed.
We'll give him to you for free.
No, he's busy with.
He's going back to Barcelona apparently. And you know what?
You guys.
Just briefly on the Aubameyang, a lot of people said when he went to Chelsea, he's finished. Before he dropped up at Chelsea and they ruined the man's confidence. He was 1 in 2 at Barcelona.
He was.
But I think with Arsenal, it's squad depth is everything. Because also that's cost Arsenal this season. Like, look at the Europa League, how ordinary they were against Sporting, went out.
And losing Tomiyasu and Saliba.
The first team is, without a doubt, one of the best in the Prem. Top 2, top 3. But then after that, you drop out, and it's suddenly...
Where's yours?
Where's mine?
That's a whole different...
They can have 10 of their players. They can have 10 of their players if they want. But it's like...
Yeah, to be fair, they could.
To be fair, with Arsenal Champions League, just need to build depth. Like, you are going to need to sign quite a few players just to literally get the depth up. And I said the same with Newcastle.
But I don't want to sign off on this debate, Fuad, with respect.
No.
Without mentioning that C word, confidence. Now, confidence in sport, especially at the top level, is everything. What we saw with Arsenal, people are very ready to throw that B word, bottling it. No.
No.
What I've said is it's a collection of things. So the injuries, the young, inexperienced team, as you mentioned, the fact that we've had 3 indifferent results going into the City game, our confidence going into that City game was quite. Yeah, Arteta's made a few errors as well, has to be said. The confidence wasn't quite there. When we went a goal down so early, to me, it looked like they just didn't believe in themselves anymore.
Yeah. Do you know one thing that I think, and I think maybe Arsenal, I don't want to say underestimated it, right? And I don't even know exactly how you describe it, but Liverpool fans probably spoken it, and it was very patronising the way Liverpool fans had probably spoke to you, going like they're the older on the block, going, I remember when I was young and all that.
Yeah.
But the thing is with this, I've said before, when people have said about how, like, for example, the points thing, people will talk about the number of points City got, how close Liverpool were. But if you look at it, the first Premier League we won by goal difference over Man United, We won, then the Pellegrini one was last minute we came through because no one else in the league wanted it. I think Arsenal were top for a period, Chelsea were top for a period, Liverpool were top for a period, and not even City. Yaya just go, do you know what, I'm going to win it, right? Yeah. And then the 2 times over Liverpool, 2 of them have been 1 point. There's actually only been one season where we've just blitzed it.
17,
and
18.
it's just this thing that Pep knows, like second to last game last season, we drew to West Ham, but Pep just knows how to somehow, and it's not even mental games like Jose and maybe Fergie does. Pep just knows on the pitch to put that maximum pressure on the other team and just go, guys, keep doing what we're doing, right, and have belief that they're not as good as us. So
listen, it's what I've termed, I use the term finishing line syndrome.
Yeah.
Listen, so if you was to do a 10k run and you'd never run before at that level, you would be, even though you're physically fit and you're trained for it, when you reach that last mile and a half, you're going to kind of second guess yourself a little bit, thinking, wow. However, if you get through it, the next time you run that race next year,
you know how to do it.
You improve your time. It's all to do with experience. We didn't quite have that, including the manager. Yes, he's been involved with City under Pep, but he's not been the one making those crucial decisions. So it's a learning process for us.
His role at City was very different.
There's so much I feel like we could touch on with this season, and obviously the positives and negatives and kind of what's happened. In a nutshell, though, you're saying this is a good season for you. And
I mean, I added the caveat, we got to finish it off.
Yes.
Because what I'm a little worried with now, especially speaking to some of the fans, I mean, I'll give you a quick anecdote, So just before the show started, I went round the corner to get a coffee from a local coffee shop. And as sometimes happens, I'm walking towards somebody and they're like, Laurie, AFTV. So we got into a little conversation. Straight away I noticed the guy had an American accent. Turns out this guy's come all the way over from Michigan for the game against Chelsea on Tuesday.
Nice.
And he was saying how disappointed he was with the City game. And we both said that, listen, it's very important now. There's 5 games left, starting with Chelsea on Tuesday. We've got to try and win all 5 games. Now, that might be a bit of a stretch, given that we're not playing that well at the moment. But it's important that the team finishes on a good note. And you carry those vibes over into next season.
100%. And listen, let's have a quick look at the Premier League table as well.
Transfer window as well for Arsenal. It's huge.
Yeah, massive.
Got to build on this season. Like, it's been a good season for Arsenal, I would say.
Yeah.
You have to build on it. You have to be there or thereabouts again next season. Otherwise, it's all for nothing.
Yeah,
I think.
Agreed.
I think, by the way, Arsenal will win. For me, I can't see you beating Newcastle. I'm not saying you'll lose to Newcastle, but I think that is a difficult game. I think a draw.
Well, never mind that. We've got to beat Chelsea first.
Oh, you're back there.
No, I'm worried about that game. I'm genuinely worried because, listen, shall I tell you why we're you see the same conversations
before the 3 o'clock kickoffs. I want to run through some of these things as well. Actually, I was going to say, for you? What would you say? Good season or bottled it?
You don't need me to answer that.
I need you to answer it right now.
Worst season I've ever seen. Worst season I've had as a Chelsea fan.
I think you meant on Arsenal.
For Arsenal. Look at this. For Arsenal. For Arsenal, I think a brilliant season. Yeah. Genuinely, I think top of Arsenal's expectations this season. Superb season for Arsenal.
What about for you, Daps?
Do you know what? The mad thing is, every time Robbie says he doesn't like using the word bottle, I just think you can't, Robbie. That's hypocritical because it's all you call Tottenham, right? And if it's your word that you want to use, understand it's going to be used back on you. But at the same time, I think Arsenal have just been naive this season.
Listen.
I don't, and if naive means bottle, then you know what, you can call it
does
bottle.
bottling
For
mean?
me, the
What
way
is the
I see it
definition of
is
bottling?
whatever. Cut it out, Laurie, yeah? All of
No,
a sudden,
seriously,
now
I
they're trying
go
to
on, say it.
redefine terms and, hey, let's use the dictionary. Listen, stop it. For me, two things can coexist. I'm sorry. You can say it's been a good season in terms of what you came into the season and what your targets were and where you finish. But then also taking in the context of the actual season, you can say you definitely bottled it as well. And I think two things can coexist, and that's fine. Listen, if we supposedly bottled that Leicester year, this is definitely a bottling.
Lack of experience.
Yeah.
What I would say,
yeah.
how do you define the word bottling it? Because it would appear to me,
That's a whole other
conversation.
That's a whole other conversation.
But it just seems to me, right? I'm just going to say this very quickly.
Let me read.
that
Go on,
bottling
I'll read the poll out afterwards.
It's just the most overused word in football lexicon. It basically boils down to if you don't beat a team that on paper you're supposed to beat, then you bottled it.
You designed the word, though. Arsenal's fan base
It
designed
means-
the word.
I don't
bottle.
think it's
you were in
bottling.
commanding position of a league title where you were playing the best football, the most dominant team, had some of the best players, arguably the manager of the season, all
Run out of
in a
steam.
favourable position where you were 8 points
Run
ahead
out of steam.
and you threw that away. Don't give me that ran out of steam.
It's true.
They ran out of steam. Steam comes
this
from
is,
water.
this is what the excuse now you're going to allow other teams to use in future.
It's
when
not
this
really an
happens.
excuse. It's a
We
reason.
all heard it here first. Next year, when you throw it away,
There's
just say you ran out of
excuses,
steam.
and then
It's
there's
fine.
reasons.
Don't worry.
Reasons.
Let me
and
read this.
excuses.
But you
What do you reckon-
designed
what do you
the
reckon the poll
word
said?
bottle.
What do you reckon the poll
Sorry, are we
said?
allowed to drink these, yeah?
Yeah, of course you can. Of course you can.
Dalston's beer, yeah? Okay.
Yeah. But
Ginger.
what do you reckon the poll said?
It's not going to be favourable
It's
to
all
us.
going to be bottle.
57% bottled, 21% both, 20% good season. I'm actually surprised good season was the least. I thought there'd be more.